There is a kind of house that should make every sensible person nervous. A house made of cake. A roof sugared like winter frost. Windows bright as candy glass. Walls that smell of cinnamon, butter, and warm bread. A door that seems to say in the kindly voice of a grandmother with suspiciously sharp teeth, "Come in, dear child. You look tired. You look hungry. You deserve something sweet." And that is where the trouble begins. Because hunger has a strange power over the mind. It narrows the world. It makes a child stare at bread as though bread were a kingdom. It makes a tired adult scroll through a store page at midnight and feel that one small package, arriving in 2 days, might somehow repair the whole furniture of the soul. Hansel and Gretel is usually told as a story about danger in the woods. That is true enough. The woods matter, the dark matters, the lost path matters. Yet the most frightening thing in the tale stands in the clearing, cheerful as a bakery display. The gingerbread house. It is the perfect picture of consumerism because it turns need into bait. It takes hunger, which is honest, and dresses it in sugar until it becomes obedience. The children are abandoned, they are cold, they are afraid. Then the world offers them a miracle they can eat. A house made from desire. Even the devil would have hired a better decorator. The tale asks us to look at the sweetness before we look at the witch. That matters. Evil rarely enters life wearing a cloak and carrying a pitchfork. It arrives as relief. It arrives as comfort. It arrives as a small reward after a long day. It arrives in beautiful packaging with a discount code, free shipping, and the quiet promise that the ache inside us can be handled at checkout. Consumerism begins with a simple spell. You are hungry, and something outside you can end that hunger. There is truth in that spell. A coat can warm the body, a good meal can restore strength. A beautiful object can bring wonder into an ordinary room. Human beings need things. We are creatures of bread, wood, cloth, firelight, and tools. A body without provision becomes a frightened little animal in the brambles. Yet the gingerbread house reveals the turning point. A thing becomes dangerous when it offers itself as a home. The house in the tale gives the children food, shelter, and delight. It seems to solve their problem. Then the door opens. Inside waits the witch, who understands appetite better than the children understand danger. That is the old warning. The thing that feeds you may also be feeding on you. Let us step into the tale. Once there were 2 children, Hansel and Gretel, who lived near a great forest with their father and stepmother. Their home was poor. Their table was thin. The cupboards had the lonely sound that cupboards make when there is more echo than supper. The father loved his children, yet love inside a starving house can become a weak candle in bad wind. The stepmother looked at the empty plates and began to count mouths. In the hard arithmetic of famine, the children became a burden. That is the first sorrow of the story. The children are treated as costs. Consumerism does this too, although it wears a finer coat. It teaches families to measure life through acquisition and shortage. It asks a household to see itself as a machine for getting and spending. The child becomes expensive, the parent becomes exhausted, the home becomes a depot for goods passing through the door in cardboard boxes. Everyone lives among objects, yet the soul begins to feel unfurnished. In the tale, the stepmother persuades the father to leave the children in the forest. Hansel hears the plan. He creeps outside under the moon and fills his pockets with white pebbles. The next morning, when the parents lead the children into the woods, Hansel drops the stones behind him, one by one, and the moonlight later makes them shine like a path of tiny stars. The children return home. For a moment, cleverness saves them. Then the hunger returns. The second time, Hansel finds the door locked. He has no pebbles. He takes bread instead and crumbles it along the path. Bread is softer than stone. Bread belongs to hunger. Bread can vanish. Birds eat the trail. Here the story becomes cruel in the way old tales are cruel. It teaches with sharp tools. The first path home was made of stone, something firm. The second path was made of food, something desired. A culture built on appetite gives people breadcrumb trails. It offers little signs of return, little comforts, little promises of control. Then, the birds come. The sale ends tonight. The trend changes tomorrow. The thing that once felt special becomes clutter by spring. The feed refreshes. The hunger returns wearing a new hat. The trail disappears. Hansel and Gretel wander deeper into the forest. They grow frightened. The trees close around them. Every direction resembles every other direction. The ordinary world has slipped away. Then they see it. A house. A wonderful house. A house with walls made of bread and a roof made of cake. Its windows gleam with sugar. It stands in the dark forest like a child's wish that learned architecture. Think of that image. Two abandoned children standing before a house they can eat. This is the genius of the tale. It gives hunger a building. It gives temptation a roof. It shows us desire transformed into a place where one can live. Consumerism does the same. It builds whole environments out of appetite. The shopping mall once did this with fountains, polished tile and music floating through the air like perfume in a chapel for credit cards. The modern version lives in the phone, where every window is a little display case, and every display case knows the shape of your wanting. The gingerbread house is no longer hidden in the woods. It sits in the palm of the hand. Hansel breaks off a piece of the roof. Gretel tastes the window. The house gives itself away bite by bite. It asks for no manners. It asks for no patience. It asks for no gratitude. It simply says, "Eat." And they do. Of course they do. They are children. This is where we should treat the story with mercy. Hansel and Gretel are hungry. Their mistake is understandable. That is why the tale has lasted. Temptation works best when it begins with a real need. A tired mother buys things because she wants a moment of ease. A lonely young man fills his room with collectibles because each box gives him a brief ceremony of arrival. A worker spends half his paycheck on little rewards because his days feel rented by other people. These are human aches. The witch builds with human aches. Consumerism gains power because it answers real pain with purchasable comfort. The comfort works for a moment. That is the trap. If it failed instantly, everyone would see the snare. The sweetness has to be real enough to earn trust. A pastry can be delicious inside a cursed house. A new object can create a small spark of delight inside a weary life. The danger grows from the way that small delight begins to impersonate meaning. Then the old woman appears. She invites the children inside. She is kind at first. She offers food. She gives them beds. She becomes the caretaker they were missing. The children, who had been cast out by their own home, enter a false home arranged around their desires. That phrase matters. A false home. Consumerism offers false homes everywhere. A brand becomes a tribe. A store becomes a refuge. A product line becomes an identity. A room filled with purchased symbols begins to stand in for a self. The person says, "This is who I am," while pointing to things someone else designed, marketed, and shipped. There is a small sadness in that. A human life wants form. It wants beauty. It wants rhythm. It wants signs that say, "I belong here." That desire can inspire greatness. It can lead someone to build a real home, keep a garden, learn a craft, host a feast, care for old objects, and fill a room with things that carry honest affection. Consumerism takes that noble desire and gives it a cheaper body. It says, buy the sign of belonging, buy the costume of depth, buy the mood, buy the shelf, buy the lamp that makes the shelf appear meaningful. Then buy another shelf, because the first one surrendered under the weight of your manufactured personality. The poor shelf became a martyr to late-stage taste. Somewhere, a Swedish Allen wrench is weeping. In the tale, the old woman reveals herself as a witch. She locks Hansel in a cage and tells Gretel to cook. Hansel will be fattened. Gretel will serve. The house that fed them now organizes them for consumption. This is the turn from pleasure to captivity. The witch does not merely eat children. She manages appetite. She feeds Hansel so she can consume him later. She uses Gretel's fear to turn her into labor. One child becomes the product, the other becomes the worker inside the system. That is a grim little business model for a cottage in the woods. Consumerism often works through the same pattern. It fattens the self it plans to consume. It feeds habits, inflates wants, trains attention, and then sells access to the person whose desire it has cultivated. The user becomes predictable, the shopper becomes legible, the citizen becomes a bundle of appetites with a billing address. This matters because consumerism is more than buying things. Buying things can be sane. A good pair of boots can carry a man through 10 winters. A sturdy table can gather a family for years. A book can become a companion across decades. The moral problem begins when buying becomes the language through which a person tries to answer every form of lack. Loneliness becomes a subscription. Anxiety becomes a wardrobe. Spiritual emptiness becomes a home decor style. Boredom becomes a cart full of little objects whose only shared purpose is arrival. The package arrives, the heart lifts, the heart drops. The cycle asks for another offering. The gingerbread house teaches us that appetite can build a prison with beautiful walls. And every prison has a theology. By theology, I mean a picture of what life is for. The gingerbread house says life is for consumption. Hunger is the truest thing about you. Sweetness is salvation. The person who feeds you owns you. That sounds harsh until we notice how much of modern life repeats the same lesson. Advertisements rarely sell objects alone. They sell escape. They show a woman made serene by a cream. They show a man made whole by a truck. They show a family redeemed by a kitchen island large enough to host a minor parliament. The object stands in the middle of the picture like a blessed relic. The message is simple. The right purchase will close the gap between your actual life and the life you think you should have. Yet the gap stays open. That is why consumerism must keep moving. It cannot let desire rest. A satisfied person is bad for business. A grateful person is almost ungovernable. A person who can mend, wait, cook, walk, sing, pray, and entertain himself has slipped through the cottage window while the witch was checking the oven. The tale understands this. The witch can keep Hansel only while he remains in the cage. She can command Gretel only while Gretel believes herself helpless. Captivity depends on a story the captives accept. Hansel resists first through cunning. When the witch asks to feel his finger to see whether he has grown fat, Hansel holds out a bone. The witch, who has poor sight, believes he remains thin. That little bone is one of the great comic details in fairy tales. The child in the cage tricks the devourer with the remains of some previous meal. It is grim, it is brilliant. It is also a lesson in refusing to give the system accurate information. In consumer life, the witch is always asking to feel the finger. What do you want? What did you click? What did you linger over? Which room did you furnish in your mind before you could afford the rent? Which hunger can be named, measured, and returned to you with a seasonal discount? Hansel's bone says, "You may ask, but I will give you less of myself." That is a human act. It means refusing to let every desire become data. It means allowing some wants to pass through the soul without being searched, priced, and delivered. It means keeping a little interior room where the market cannot hang wallpaper. Gretel's resistance comes later. The witch tells her to climb into the oven to test whether it is hot enough. Gretel pretends she does not understand. The witch grows impatient and shows her how. Then Gretel shoves her in and shuts the door. There is the tale's great reversal. The child who seemed powerless sees the mechanism of the trap. She does not defeat the witch by becoming stronger in a grand, heroic way. She defeats her by understanding the device. The oven was built for the children. Gretel makes the witch enter her own machine. That is the wisdom we need. Consumerism loses power when we understand its machinery. The discount clock, the limited drop, the curated identity, the shame disguised as aspiration. the tiny thrill of arrival, the dullness afterward, the next hunger offered in brighter wrapping. Once you see the oven, you can stop climbing inside. This does not require hatred of things. That point matters. The answer to consumerism is not ugliness. A bare life is no cure for a false sweet one. Human beings need beauty. We need clothing that carries dignity. We need meals that honor the body. We need homes that shelter the spirit. We need gifts. We need tools. We need art. We need small delights that make an ordinary Tuesday feel less like a government form with weather. The answer is rightly ordered desire. Hansel and Gretel are saved when the false house is destroyed and the treasure inside it is recovered. In many versions of the tale, the children find jewels and pearls in the witch's house. They return home with enough wealth to end the famine. The sweetness was false, yet hidden within the dark place was something real. That is a strange and hopeful detail. The tale does not say the material world is evil. It says desire must be rescued from enchantment. The jewels are safe after the witch is gone. Matter becomes good again when it stops ruling the soul. This gives us a better way to think about modern buying. A thing is healthy when it serves life. A thing becomes witchcraft when life serves it. A dining table serves life when people gather around it. A phone serves life when it helps a father call his daughter. A coat serves life when it keeps the body warm and gives the wearer a sense of dignity. Even a beautiful little object on a shelf can serve life when it carries memory, craft, and affection. The trouble starts when the object asks for worship. It asks the person to become the sort of person who owns it. It demands attention beyond its use. It creates shame in its absence. It breeds more hunger after it arrives. Then the sugar hardens. Then the door locks. The first practical lesson is to know your hunger before you feed it. When you want to buy something, ask what ache has come to the surface. Fatigue feels like desire. Loneliness feels like desire. Envy feels like desire. Even creative energy can disguise itself as shopping because buying the tools for a life feels easier than living it. A man buys notebooks instead of writing. A woman buys kitchenware instead of inviting guests. A teenager buys the aesthetic of a reader while the books remain closed. The object becomes a costume for the life that action would require. The notebook industry has survived for centuries on unwritten novels. Every blank page is a tiny white flag with lines. The cure is simple and demanding. Let the desired object point toward the real action. If you want the notebook, write before buying another. If you want the kitchenware, host with what you have. If you want the beautiful room, clean one corner and place one meaningful thing there. Desire should become practice before it becomes purchase. The second lesson is to make the home stronger than the market. Hansel and Gretel fall for the gingerbread house because their own home has failed. The cottage in the woods becomes powerful because the hearth behind them became unsafe. A culture of weak homes creates strong witches. A strong home does not require wealth. It requires rhythm. It has meals that repeat. It has objects that belong. It has a few customs that gather people back from the forest. It has a chair where someone reads. It has a table where food arrives before everyone becomes wild. It has a rule that the glowing little gingerbread house in the pocket rests somewhere else during supper. The market hates a strong home because a strong home interrupts hunger. It teaches enough. It teaches care. It teaches repair. It teaches the difference between need and craving. A child raised around sane limits learns that wanting can rise and fall without becoming king. That child enters the forest with stones in his pocket. The third lesson is to buy fewer things with greater reverence. This sounds old-fashioned because it is, and old-fashioned things often survived for a reason. Cheap abundance trains contempt. When everything can be replaced, little is cherished. A person becomes surrounded by objects that ask for storage rather than love. The better way is slower. Buy the coat you will mend. Buy the cup you will keep. Buy the tool that can age beside you. Let objects earn their place in the household like guests with good manners. The world already contains enough plastic goblins. There is wonder in owning fewer things that matter more. A well-kept object can become part of a life. It gathers time. It receives scratches honestly. It bears the marks of use like an old knight with a dented shield. Consumerism wants every object young, replaceable, and slightly ashamed of last season. A human home lets things age into dignity. That is a quiet rebellion. The fourth lesson is to keep feast separate from feeding. The gingerbread house turns every surface into a snack. It destroys the boundary between shelter and appetite. A real feast does the opposite. It gives desire a place, a time, and a form. It says, here is the hour of sweetness, here is the table, here are the people, here is gratitude. Consumerism spreads appetite across the whole day until every moment becomes nibbling. A little scroll, a little cart, a little delivery, a little treat. The soul never fasts, so it never feasts. It grazes through life like a haunted goat. A haunted goat can consume many things, yet majesty rarely follows. Feasting restores majesty because it teaches desire to wait. It takes sweetness out of the cage and places it at the table. It turns consumption into communion. The cake is no longer a wall in a witch's house. It becomes a gift shared under a lawful roof. The fifth lesson is to teach children the shape of the trap. Hansel and Gretel survive because they learn. The tale itself is a map given to children. It tells them that sweetness can deceive. It tells them that strangers can use kindness as bait. It tells them that cleverness matters when adults fail. It tells them that fear can be endured. Modern children need the same map. They need to know why the toy aisle is arranged at their eye level. They need to know why games sell skins. They need to know why videos open another video before silence has time to breathe. They need to know that wanting something very badly can make the mind smaller for a moment. This can be taught without bitterness. A parent can say, "That company wants your hunger to grow. Let us see what it is doing." The child learns to observe the spell. Once a spell is observed, it loses some of its smoke. Adults need the lesson too. We are all children before the gingerbread house when the hour is late and the heart is sore. There is no shame in feeling the pull. The shame belongs to the witch, not to the hungry child. The modern market employs armies of clever people to study attention, appetite, insecurity, and hope. One weary soul with a phone is facing a cathedral of persuasion built by people who definitely own too many fleeces with company logos. Even witches have quarterly goals. So mercy matters. A humane response to consumerism begins with honesty. We admit that the sweetness is sweet. We admit that the hunger is real. We admit that objects can comfort. Then we put each truth in its proper place. The sweetness is sweet, yet it cannot become a home. The hunger is real, yet it cannot become a master. The object can comfort, yet it cannot become a soul. Hansel and Gretel return from the forest changed. They carry treasure. The witch is gone. The father receives them. The famine ends. The children who were treated as burdens become bearers of abundance. That ending matters because the tale moves beyond escape. It restores the household. It takes the wealth hidden in the false home and brings it back to the true home. The children do not remain in the forest congratulating themselves for being minimalist. They go back. They rebuild life. That is the higher answer to consumerism. We are not called to hate the marketplace. We are called to bring desire home. A good life has bread in it. It has sweetness in it. It has beautiful things in it. It has gifts wrapped with care. It has rooms arranged with affection. It has tools that fit the hand. It has coats, cups, books, lamps, and perhaps one absurd decorative object that makes no sense to visitors, yet somehow guards the household spirit like a ceramic gargoyle with excellent posture. The difference is order. In a sane life, things gather around love. In a consumer life, love gathers around things. The old fairy tale gives us a simple image for that difference. The gingerbread house stands alone in the forest. It has sweetness without kinship. It has abundance without gratitude. It has shelter without safety. It is edible, charming, and cursed. The true home may be poorer. Its roof may leak. Its table may have scratches. Its pantry may occasionally look as though a mouse read economic theory and panicked. Yet the true home can be blessed because it is ordered toward persons. It feeds bodies so souls can flourish. It holds objects so love has somewhere to sit down. Consumerism reverses that order. It feeds the hunger so the hunger can grow. It fills the house so the house can feel emptier. It gives the soul 1,000 sugared walls and nowhere to rest. Hansel and Gretel teach us to see the house before we bite it. See the offer. See the appetite beneath it. See the cage behind the comfort. See the oven hidden in the promise of ease. Then recover the old powers. Keep a stone path home. Build habits stronger than hunger. Give children maps. Let objects serve the household. Let sweetness become feast. Let beauty remain tied to gratitude. Let desire kneel before love. This is how ordinary people survive the forest of purchasable dreams. No grand speech is required at the checkout counter. No dramatic vow needs to echo through the mall. The soul can begin with a small act of refusal. Close the cart. Wait one day. Cook the meal. Mend the thing. Clean the room. Call the friend. Read the book already waiting on the shelf. There is a majesty in such small acts. They look plain from the outside, yet they rebuild the kingdom of the person from within. The witch hates that. She wants the child alone, hungry and dazzled. She wants the roof to smell like cake forever. She wants the hand to reach before the mind awakens. She wants the whole human creature reduced to appetite. Gretel shows another way. She stands at the mouth of the oven. She listens. She understands. In the moment when the trap expects obedience, she acts. That is the recovered virtue at the heart of the tale, discernment. Discernment is the power to see what a thing is for. It sees the difference between a meal and a lure. It sees the difference between a home and a display. It sees the difference between beauty and bait. It sees the difference between comfort that restores and comfort that fattens the cage. A discerning person can enjoy sweetness without surrender. He can buy without being bought. He can own without being owned. He can walk through the glittering market with a clear eye and a steady heart, which is almost unfair to the witches. They spent all that money on frosting. The forest remains. It always does. Children still get lost. Adults still get hungry. Houses of appetite still appear in the clearing, brighter than they should be, kinder than they are. The modern world has made those houses smaller, faster, and closer. They glow beside the bed, they travel in pockets, they whisper at lunch. They wait patiently through the night, little cottages of sugar with excellent battery life. Yet the old tale travels with us too. Hansel still has his stones, Gretel still has her courage. The witch still makes mistakes when impatience overtakes her. The oven door still has hinges. The path home can still be found. A human life can be more than hunger. A home can be more than storage. Beauty can be more than packaging. Sweetness can be restored to the feast. And when we learn to walk past the gingerbread walls, when we learn to carry desire back into the warmth of a true home, when we teach the young to recognize the shining trap and still keep wonder alive, the forest loses some of its terror. The child grows wiser. The house grows warmer. The table is set with bread that asks for gratitude rather than obedience. A grand world awaits.